C-SPAN is
All right, what's up, everybody? State of the Union address. It's going to be a little embarrassing to watch our nation's leaders make a fool of themselves yet again. Everybody showed up from every branch of government, senators, congressmen. This is one of the biggest gatherings in government. And yeah, we're going to see how this goes. Not going to be a big market mover, at least not from my perspective. But I have the charts up just in case. Same exact levels from this morning's live stream. I'm looking to take longs at 18,121 on NAS 100. So that's the trade I'm looking at. We're going to see if this has any effect on the market. If it does, we can catch a live trade. If not, the market is setting up perfectly for tomorrow. All right, let's get right into it.
I actually tried to walk when I was pregnant. That's why I never.
Check. Can you guys hear me? Mic check, mic check, mic check. Real quick, can you guys, how's the volume on the video itself?
The president's cabinet.
Are we good on volume or how are we doing? Can't hear the video, but can hear you. I'm so confused. Half of you guys are saying it's good, half are not. Guys, if you're trolling, it's not the time. If you're saying you can't hear the meeting, it's really just background chatter. There's no one talking just yet. Yeah, there's nobody talking right now. Hold on. Huh. I've never had that happen where the video I'm trying to play isn't going through. All right, I can't get this thing to work. Hopefully, when they start talking, we'll have some more action. We'll be able to see if it's coming through. But even with the indistinct background chatter, it should still be coming through. I just checked it on my own phone. It's not working. I am so confused. This is not making any sense. Is that sound coming out of my computer? What? Where's that coming from?
Joe. Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
All right, are we good on the volume now?
Look over here, Mr. President. Mr. President. Good to see you, Mr. President. This is about you. This is about control of the nation.
All right, guys. I don't know what the hell's going on. I've tried to fix this 50 times. This is like it's just one of those situations. I don't even know what the solution is for this. Like, if give me a second, it's just going to be mumbled for a while. I can search this up, or if somebody can help find a solution for this be clutch. But fucking 3 years of using Zoom to stream, and you know what I'm saying? This stuff still happens. I don't know. All right. Give me a second. Let me look this up on my phone, see if I can find a solution. If not, it's not that deep. We'll just pick back up tomorrow. Well, I'm just gonna have this muted for now because if it's not coming through, then it is what it is. Let me try one more thing.
Thank you. Jill. Good evening. Good evening. If I were smart, I'd go home now. Mr. Speaker, Madam Vice President, members of Congress, my fellow Americans, in January 1941, Franklin Roosevelt came to this chamber to speak to the nation, and he said, "I address you at a moment unprecedented in the history of the Union. Hitler was on the march. War was raging in Europe. President Roosevelt's purpose was to wake up Congress and alert the American people that this was no ordinary time. Freedom and democracy were under assault in the world. Tonight, I come to this same chamber to address the nation. Now, it's we who face an unprecedented moment in the history of the Union. And yes, my purpose tonight is to wake up the Congress and alert the American people that this is no ordinary moment either. Not since President Lincoln and the Civil War have freedom and democracy been under assault at home as they are today. What makes our moment rare is that freedom and democracy are under attack both at home and overseas at the very same time. Overseas, Putin of Russia is on the march, invading Ukraine and sowing chaos throughout Europe and beyond. If anybody in this room thinks Putin will stop at Ukraine, I assure you he will not. But Ukraine can stop Putin. Ukraine can stop Putin if we stand with Ukraine.
What's crazy is this translator is getting in the middle of this international beef, but just by translating this.
That is all. That is all Ukraine is asking. They're not asking for American soldiers. In fact, there are no American soldiers at war in Ukraine, and I'm determined to keep it that way. But now, assistance to Ukraine is being blocked by those who want to walk away from our world leadership. It wasn't long ago when a Republican president named Ronald Reagan thundered, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall."
Oh my God.
Now my predecessor, a former Republican president, tells Putin, quote, "Do whatever the hell you want." That's a quote.
Those are his
actually said that,
his donors.
bowing down to a Russian leader. I think it's outrageous, it's dangerous, and it's unacceptable.
Like he said a full sentence. Wrap it up.
America is a founding member of NATO, the military alliance of democratic nations created after World War II to prevent war and keep the peace. And today, we've made NATO stronger than ever. We welcomed Finland to the alliance last year. And just this morning, Sweden officially joined, and their minister is here tonight. I'm going to stand up.
I just want to remind you all that Finland and Sweden are not on the border of Russia. The reason that Ukraine is so important is because Ukraine is the only thing stopping NATO from invading Russia. And that's why Sweden and Finland joining NATO is cool and not going to start a world war, but Ukraine joining NATO would be World War III. I hope that's clear for everybody.
up to Putin. Send me a bipartisan national security bill. History is literally watching. History is watching. If the United States walks away, it will put Ukraine at risk.
Either those lights are that bright or he's struggling with this.
My message to President Putin, who I've known for a long time, is simple. We will not walk away. We will not bow down. I will not bow down. In a literal sense, history is watching. History is watching. Just like history watched 3 years ago on January 6th.
Oh my
when
God.
insurrection stormed.
How does he even do that? It's like David Blaine level magic. This is Mr. Fantastic level of stretch, piecing all this together.
The insurrectionists were not patriots. They'd come to stop the peaceful transfer of power, to overturn the will of the people. January 6th lies about the 2020 election and the plots to steal the election posed a gravest threat to U.S. democracy since the Civil War. But they failed. America stood. America stood strong, and democracy prevailed. We must be honest. The threat to democracy must be defended. My predecessor and some of you here seek to bury the truth about January 6th. I will not do that. This is the moment to speak the truth and to bury the lies. Here's the simple truth. You can't love your country only when you win.
Why are they clapping like he said something like profound?
Ever since being elected to office, I ask all of you without regard to party to join together and defend democracy. Remember your oath of office is defending against all threats, foreign and domestic. Respect free and fair elections, restore trust in our institutions, and make clear political violence has absolutely no place in America, zero place. Again, it's not hyperbole to suggest history is watching. We're watching. Your children and grandchildren will read about this day and what we do. History is watching another assault on freedom. Joining us tonight is Latoya Beasley, a social worker from Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, no.
14 months ago, she and her husband welcomed a baby girl thanks to the miracle of IVF. She scheduled treatments to have that second child, but the Alabama Supreme Court shut down IVF treatments across the state, unleashed by a Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade. She was told her dream would have to wait. What her family had got through should never have happened. Unless Congress acts, it could happen again. So tonight, let's stand up for families like her.
I'm not even going to let him finish this. This is insanity. All right. I'm pro-life. I just want to let you guys know this. I know this is not supposed to be a popular take to give your political opinion. Here it is. I'm pro-life. All right. Straight up. He used a very, and look, everybody's staring at her and clapping at her like, this is so embarrassing, man. They used one anecdotal experience to try to justify the entire philosophical debate and practical debate around abortion. This is actually a Trump tactic. You guys remember Trump? Remember Trump put the girls that had accused Bill Clinton, he put them in the front row? God, this man's taking plays out of Trump's playbook.
That has resulted. Joining us tonight is Kate Cox, the wife and mother from Dallas. She's become pregnant again and had a fetus of a fatal condition. Her doctor told Kate that her own life and our ability to have children in the future were at risk.
All right, say that 3 times real quick.
Law banned her ability to act. Kate and her husband had to leave the state to get what she needed. What her family got through should have never happened as well, but it's happening in too many others. There are state laws banning the freedom to choose, criminalizing doctors, forcing survivors of rape and incest to leave their states to get the treatment they need. Many of you in this chamber and my predecessor are promising.
I'll have to fact check that, but to my knowledge, there are very, very few, if any, that the exemption for sexual assault or incest or anything like that, there are exemptions in most states, even those that have very strict abortion laws. So I think he might have been capping right there.
Excuse me, electoral or political power. You're about to realize just how much you were right about that.
They came in to save him. His special interest and his donors said, "Oh, he's losing his train of thought. Come in quick with the laugh, with the clap tracks." I can't imagine this many people are actually clapping. This is absolutely nuts. I mean, then again, it's his daughter and his wife, and I don't know, the delegation for women congressional. I don't know.
Power women, but they found out when reproductive freedom was on the ballot. We won in 2022 and 2020, and we'll win again in 2024.
I'll be honest, the Fed speech from Jerome Powell's speech from earlier was way more entertaining. Who here remembers Mr. Kennedy's remarks from this morning? And you remember Senator Kennedy, Senator Loomis, putting him on blast? That was fire. They should just bring Trump in, like John Cena, just have him smash the 2 bottles, play the music, have Trump walk in, make him debate. Man, what does this come to?
Folks, America cannot go back. I'm here tonight to show what I believe is the way forward, because I know how far we come. 4 years ago next week, before I came to office, the country was hit by the worst pandemic and the worst economic crisis in a century. Remember the fear, record losses? Remember the spikes in crime and the murder rate, raging virus that took more than 1 million American lives, of loved ones, millions left behind? A mental health crisis of isolation and loneliness. A president, my predecessor, failed the most basic presidential duty that he owes to American people, the duty to care. I think that's unforgivable. I came to office determined to get us through one of the toughest periods in the nation's history. We have. It doesn't make new.
We were already out of the pandemic when Joe Biden got in office. Just throwing that out there.
So let's tell the story here. Tell it here and now. America's comeback is building the future of American possibilities, building an economy from the middle out and the bottom up, not the top down, investing in all America, in all Americans, to make sure everyone has a fair shot, and we leave no one behind. The pandemic no longer controls our lives. The vaccines that saved us from COVID are now being used to beat cancer, turning setback into comeback. That's what America does. That's what America does.
Did he just say the COVID vaccines are being used to cure cancer? Can we just take a... What is happening right now?
My inherited economy is on the brink. Now our economy...
The translator's sitting there like, I don't even know what do I even say?
3 years, a record. Unemployment at 50-year lows.
When Trump was still in office, unemployment rates fell to 3.4% post-pandemic. It was the fastest rebound in American history. Just throwing that out there.
With historic job growth and small business growth for Black and Hispanics and Asian Americans, 800,000 new manufacturing jobs in America and counting. Where is it written we can't be the manufacturing capital of the world? We are, we will. More people have health insurance today. More people have health.
Well, it's called labor laws, and which is why foreign labor is typically cheaper than the U.S. because foreign countries typically have much looser labor laws around children and just in general. And so there's no minimum wage standards, there's no maximum working hours. And so their productive capacity is typically higher than that of the US.
And now, instead of importing foreign products and exporting American jobs, we're exporting American products and creating American jobs right here in America, where they belong.
Is the audio still coming in? Just making sure here. You guys can still hear the speech, right?
Studies show consumer confidence is soaring. Buy America has been the law of the land since the 1930s. Past administrations, including my predecessor, including some Democrats as well in the past, failed to buy American. Not anymore. On my watch, federal projects that you fund, like helping build American roads, bridges, and highways, will be made with American products and built by American workers. Creating good-paying American jobs. And thanks to our CHIPS and Science Act, the United States is investing more in research and development than ever before. During the pandemic, a shortage of semiconductors, chips, that drove up the price of everything from cell phones to automobiles. And by the way, we invented those chips right here in America. Well, instead of having to import them, private companies are now investing billions of dollars to build new chip factories here in America, creating tens of thousands of jobs. Many of those jobs paying $100,000 a year and don't require a college degree.
All right, that's actually a positive for us. I am a very big believer in the chip revolution and the AI revolution happening in the States and kind of giving the United States its production capacity back. And NVIDIA and other leaders bringing semiconductor capacity back to the States does provide tons of high-paying jobs. And as long as it doesn't require a degree, I think that's going to be a net positive for the United States, both economically and geostrategically.
Partisan infrastructure law. 46,000 new projects have been announced all across your communities. And by the way, I noticed some of you strongly voted against it, or they're cheering on that money coming in. I like it. I'm with you. I'm with you. And if any of you don't want that money in your district, just let me know. Modernizing our roads and bridges, ports and airports, public transit systems. Removing poisonous lead pipes so every child can drink clean water without risk of brain damage. Providing affordable high-speed internet for every American, no matter where you live, urban, suburban, or rural communities, in red states and blue states. Record investments in tribal communities. Because of my investment in family farms, because I invested in family farms led by my Secretary of Agriculture, who knows more about this than anybody I know, we're better able to stay in the family for those farms and their children and grandchildren won't have to leave home to make a living. It's transformative. The great comeback story is Belvidere, Illinois, home to an auto plant for nearly 60 years. Before I came to office, the plant was on its way to shutting down. Thousands of workers feared for their livelihoods. Hope was fading. Then I was elected to office, and we raised the Belvedere repeatedly with auto companies, knowing unions would make all the difference. The UAW worked like hell to keep the plant open and get these jobs back, and together we succeeded. Instead of auto factories shutting down, auto factories reopening, and new state-of-the-art battery factories being built to power those cars there at the same. The folks of Belvedere, I say, instead of your town being left behind, your community is moving forward again. Because instead of watching auto jobs in the future go overseas, 4,000 union jobs with higher wages are building the future in Belvedere right here in America. Here tonight is UAW President Shawn Fain, a great friend and a great labor leader. Shawn, where are you? Stand up. And Dawn Sims, a third-generation worker, UAW worker at Belvedere. Shawn, I was proud to be the first president to stand on the picket line, and today, Dawn has a good job in her hometown, providing stability for her family and pride and dignity as well. Showing once again, Wall Street didn't build America. They're not bad guys. They didn't build it, though. The middle class built the country, and unions built the middle class.
They didn't build it, though. Yo, whoever wrote this speech is on fire. Who is this? What is happening in Congress, people?
American people, when America gets knocked down, we get back up. We keep going. That's America.
Man, I wish I could get a reception like this, but I'll spit quantum physics. I'll go through 3 different, just to get some, just to get a nod or something. This guy's America. We get back up. The whole crowd foaming at the mouth. Easy crowd.
Tonight,
That's got to be paid actors. Phil, what is happening?
abilities that we can build together. A future where the days of trickle-down economics are over, and the wealthy and the biggest corporations no longer get all the tax breaks. And by the way, I understand corporations. I come from a state that has more corporations invested than every one of your states in the United States combined. And I represented it for 36 years. I'm not anti-corporation, but I grew up in a home where trickle-down economics didn't put much on my dad's kitchen table. That's why I determined to turn things around so middle class does well. When they do well, the poor go way up and the wealthy still do very well. We all do well. And there's more to do to make sure you're feeling the benefits of all we're doing. Americans pay more for prescription drugs than anywhere in the world. It's wrong, and I'm ending it. With a law that I proposed and signed, not one of you Republican buddies voted for it. We finally beat Big Pharma. Instead of paying $400 a month or thereabouts for insulin with diabetes, and it only costs $10 to make, they only get paid $35 a month now and still make a healthy profit. And but what to do next? I want to cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month for every American who needs it. Everyone. For years, people have talked about it, but finally we got it done and gave Medicare the power to negotiate lower prices on prescription drugs, just like the VA is able to do for veterans. That's not just saving seniors money, it's saving taxpayers money. We cut the federal deficit by $160 billion. Because Medicare will no longer have to pay those exorbitant prices to Big Pharma. This year, Medicare is negotiating lower prices for some of the costliest drugs on the market to treat everything from heart disease to arthritis. It's now time to go further and give Medicare the power to negotiate lower prices for 500 different drugs over the next decade. They're making a lot of money, guys. And they'll still be extremely profitable. Will not only save lives, it will save taxpayers another $200 billion. Starting next year, the same law caps total prescription drug costs for seniors on Medicare at $2,000 a year, even for expensive cancer drugs that cost $10,000, $12,000, $15,000. Now I want to cap prescription drug costs at $2,000 a year for everyone. Folks,
My dad was saying to watch Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson ain't stood up one time.
I'm going to get in trouble for saying that, but if you want to get an Air Force One and fly to Toronto, Berlin, Moscow, well, even Moscow, probably.
Oh, guys, imagine making a mistake like that. Saying we're going to fly to Moscow and you have no open lines of communication with the Kremlin in the middle of what could potentially be a world war. And being like, oh, we're going to go to Mexico, we're going to go to Toronto, we're going to go to Russia. Oh, not Russia, I meant Belarus. Come on.
Over 100 million of you can no longer be denied health insurance because of pre-existing condition. But my predecessor and many in this chamber want to take this prescription drug away by repealing the Affordable Care Act. I'm not going to let that happen.
3 people were booing, by the way, the last 3 supporters of the Affordable Care Act.
In fact, I'm not only protecting it, I'm expanding it. The enacted tax credits of $800 per person per year reduce health care costs for millions of working families. That tax credit expires next year. I want to make that savings permanent. To state the obvious, women are more than half our population, but research on women's health has always been underfunded. That's why we're launching the first ever White House initiative on women's health research, led by Jill, doing an incredible job as First Lady.
Since when is women's health underfunded? I mean, health in general is underfunded in America, but specifically, I feel like men's health don't really get that recognition. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
So important to you.
Speculation.
If inflation keeps coming down, mortgage rates will come down as well, and the Fed acknowledges that. But I'm not waiting. I want to provide an annual tax credit that will give Americans $400 a month for the next 2 years as mortgage rates come down.
First off, did we learn nothing about 9% inflation rates from giving out helicopter money to people directly through the Treasury? This whole $400 stimmy check thing, this already failed. We just had a 2-year inflation scare where we had to claw our way back. And now we're talking about printing more money. Stocks will fly, people. Stocks are going to fly.
Mortgages. When you refinance your home, you can save $1,000 or more as a consequence. For millions of renters, we're cracking down on big landlords who use antitrust law, who break antitrust laws by price fixing and driving up rents. We've cut red tape so builders can get federally financing, which is already helping build a record 1.7 million new housing units nationwide. Now pass and build and renovate 2 million affordable homes and bring those rents down. To remain the strongest economy in the world, we need to have the best education system in the world. And I suspect all of you, want to give every child, a good start by providing access to preschool for 3 and 4 years old. You know, I think I pointed out last year that children coming from broken homes where there's no books, they're not read to, not spoken to very often, start school, kindergarten, or first grade, having heard 1 million fewer words spoken. Well, studies show that children who go to preschool are nearly 50% more likely to finish high school, go on to earn a 2- and 4-year degree, no matter what their background is. I met a year and a half ago with the leaders of the Business Roundtable. They were mad that they were angry, I think, well, they were discussing why I wanted to spend money on education. I pointed out to them, as vice president, I met with over I think it was 182 of those folks. Don't hold me to the exact number. And I asked them what they need most, the CEOs. And you've had the same experience on both sides of the aisle. They say a better educated workforce, right? So I looked at them and I say, I come from Delaware. DuPont used to be the 8th largest corporation in the world. And every new enterprise they bought, they educated the workforce to that enterprise. But none of you do that anymore. Why are you angry with me providing you the opportunity for the best educated workforce in the world? And they all looked at me and said, I think you're right.
That was solid.
Quality tutoring and summer learning to see that every child learns to read by 3rd grade.
Okay, see, he had me. When he was talking about educating a workforce, meaning re-education and paying for people to have a chance to go to college, like Amazon and McDonald's and a few corporations give access to people to go to college if they work there long enough. He was talking about, why are you looking at me? It's the corporations that should be taking care of the 3-year-olds going to school, preschool choice, the ability for all of that is mandated by Congress. Zoning districts, the age of kindergarten to K through 12, the standards of education, all of that is set by Congress and the executive.
Told I couldn't universally just change the way in which we dealt with student loans. I fixed 2 student loan programs that already existed to reduce the burden of student debt for nearly 4 million Americans, including nurses.
Gary, with all due respect, it's not Joe Biden pumping the market. All right, the market's been pumping for 5 months. You shorted against the clear direction of the trend for God knows what reason. Maybe you're trying to play God. So don't blame the speech because there has been zero motion since the speech started. Take personal accountability for shorting a bullish market.
And folks, look, such relief is good for the economy because folks are now able to buy a home, start a business, start a family. While we're at it, I want to give public school teachers a raise.
Okay. Guys, this is the equivalent of the kid in middle school saying he's going to make all the vending machines free, and then everybody just starts going crazy. You ain't getting free snacks. None of this is going to happen. I don't even know why. I don't even know what they're clapping for. They know how the congressional system works. None of these would pass as a law. So this is just a lot of just hyping up, trying to show people, hey, I can still stand here for an hour. I'm not this kind of shell that everyone's trying to make me out to be. And I don't know. This half this country might believe this, might believe whatever this is right here.
It'll deficit another $3 trillion by making big corporations, the very wealthy, finally beginning to pay their fair share. Look, I'm a capitalist. If you want to make or can make a million or millions of bucks, that's great. Just pay your fair share in taxes. A fair tax code is how we invest things to make this country great. Healthcare, education, defense, and so much more. But here's the deal. The last administration enacted a $2 trillion tax cut, overwhelmingly benefit the top 1%, the very wealthy and the biggest corporations, and exploded the federal deficit. They added more to the national debt than any presidential term in American history. Check the numbers. Folks at home, does anybody really think the tax code is fair? No. Do you really think the wealthy and big corporations need another $2 trillion tax break? No. I sure don't. I'm going to keep fighting like hell to make it fair.
I don't even know where to start with this, but if you incentivize corporations to leave the country because of unfavorable tax laws, everyone loses. People pretend like they created their job from scratch. whatever company you work for, they created these jobs. And if they leave and go send the jobs overseas because they're being overtaxed here in the States, how does that make anybody's life better?
Should go hungry in this country. The way to make the tax code fair is to make big corporations and the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Remember in 2020, 55 of the biggest companies in America made $40 billion and paid zero in federal income tax. Zero. Not anymore. Thanks to the law I wrote and we signed, big companies have to pay a minimum of 15%. But that's still less than working people pay in federal taxes. It's time to raise corporate minimum tax to at least 21%.
All right, relax now.
So every big corporation finally begins to pay their fair share.
Or they just find another way to spend the money and make it look like they did not make anything. Or they just stop hiring people and use that money for any expense that is tax deductible. Yeah, this is just madness.
1,000 billionaires in America. You know what the average federal tax is for those billionaires? No. They're making great sacrifices, 8.2%. That's far less than the vast majority of Americans pay. No billionaire should pay a lower federal tax rate than a teacher, a sanitation worker, or a nurse.
Okay, quick lesson on wealth. The reason that the rich pay less in taxes is because income is taxed more than investments. Capital gains tax is lower than your income tax. And so the wealthiest people, they're not working and getting an income and paying taxes on that income. They could be borrowing against their assets, in which case debt is tax-free. They could be collateralizing any of their stock or their equity and then getting a loan from the bank. They could be doing anything except for making money and then having to pay taxes, which is why the average tax rate that the richest people in the country pay is typically lower. But the amount of dollars that they pay total is still very high.
Pay they deserve. Tonight, let's all agree once again to stand up for seniors. Many of my friends on the other side of the aisle want to put Social Security on the chopping block. If anyone here tries to cut Social Security or Medicare or raise the retirement age, I will stop you.
Raising the retirement age might be the only thing that can save retirees from not having a pension when they retire. Social Security is dwindling, and an extra 1 or 2 years could be the game changer for someone, looking to retire. Unless he has some magic plan that he has not presented yet, which is kind of too late for all that, he's just talking out of his ass again.
You guys don't want another $2 trillion tax cut? I kind of thought that's what your plan was. Well, that's good to hear. You're not going to cut another $2 trillion for the super wealth. That's good to hear. I'll protect and strengthen Social Security and make the wealthy pay their fair share. Look,
this is one of those times where the politicians say, we're going to raise taxes on the rich, but your taxes will not go up. And then everyone's taxes go up, and the rich find a way to avoid paying taxes, and guess who's left holding the bag?
price gouging and deceptive pricing, from food to healthcare to housing.
Do I think the crowd audience is scripted and paid? I would say at least 10 to 15% are paid. And I would say the rest are Democrats who are looking to just strengthen their side of the aisle. So are there special interest donors and people who are kind of just put there to clap and support? I think so, yeah. Yes. Pure speculation.
You probably all saw that commercial on Snickers bars. You get charged the same amount, and you got about, 10% fewer Snickers in it.
Oh my God, this is the same thing as the potato chips from this morning. Dude, people are dying on the streets. People do not have money for a $400 emergency. And they're talking about how there's not enough chips in the Lay's bag and how now the Snickers bar is smaller than it used to be. Out of touch. Look, Kamala Harris standing up every 3 seconds as if this guy just, put down the quadratic equation.
To charge what it costs them to instigate the collection. And that's more a hell of a lot like $8 and 30 some dollars. They don't like it. Credit card companies don't like it. But I'm saving American families $20 billion a year with all the junk fees I'm eliminating. Folks at home, that's why the banks are so mad. It's $20 billion in profit. I'm not stopping there.
Where'd that money go? It's in the buy now, pay later firms like Klarna and what's the other one? Klarna and where you can basically pay anything in installments of 3 or 4. They have taken over a lot of the credit usage in the country. And so all the profits that have been competed away are not regulatory. They're competitive. Like the buy now, pay later firms took the majority of the excess revenue from the credit companies and from some of the banks who were doing lending.
Oh, you don't think so? Oh, you don't like that bill, huh? That conservatives got together and said it was a good bill? I'll be darned. That's amazing. That bipartisan bill would hire 1,500 more security agents and officers, 100 more immigration judges to help tackle the backload of 2 million cases, 4,300 more asylum officers, and new policies so they can resolve cases in 6 months instead of 6 years now. What are you against? 100 more high-tech drug detection machines to significantly increase the ability to screen and stop vehicles.
I was going to make a Hunter joke.
That's killing thousands of children. This bill would save lives and bring order to the border. It will also give me and any new president new emergency authority to temporarily shut down the border when the number of migrants at the border is overwhelming. The Border Patrol Union has endorsed this bill. The Federal Chamber of Commerce is, yeah. You're saying low. Look at the facts. I know.
Taunting the conservatives, crazy.
I believe that given the opportunity for a majority in the House and Senate would endorse the bill as well, a majority right now. But unfortunately, politics has derailed this bill so far. I'm told my predecessor called members of Congress in the Senate to demand they block the bill. He feels political win, he viewed it as a political win for me and a political loser for him.
Clip that.
About him, it's not about me. I'd be a winner, not really.
See, someone talking out loud just distracted him from his train of thought. They meant to do that.
Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of the thousands of people being killed by illegals? To her parents, I say, my heart goes out to you, having lost children myself. I understand. But look.
Just as a reminder, the president has the authority to use his executive function to close the border at any time and to deport anybody with a previous criminal record. However, he has not used that executive function. And so, again, blowing smoke.
And it's worth taking the chance of the $8,000. But if it's only 6 weeks, the idea is it's highly unlikely that people will pay that money and come all that way, knowing that they'll be able to be kicked out quickly. Folks, I would respectfully suggest my Republican friends owe it to the American people, get this bill done. We need to act now.
It's only the elites of the United States. It's not the elites of the world. I mean, granted, America is the world power, but I guess, yeah, you're right.
Instead of paying politics and pressuring members of Congress to block the bill, join me and telling the Congress to pass it. We can do it together, but that's what he apparently here's what he will not do. I will not demonize immigrants saying they are poison in the blood of our country. I will not separate families.
Just for record, the most amount of border separations in U.S. history happened under the Obama administration.
Stay in office, I introduced a comprehensive bill to fix our immigration system. Take a look at it. It has all these and more. Secure the border. Provide a pathway to citizenship for dreamers, and so much more. But unlike my predecessor, I know who we are as Americans. We're the only nation in the world with a heart and soul that draws from old and new. Home to Native Americans, whose ancestors have been here for thousands of years. Home to people of every place, from every place on earth. They came freely. Some came in chains. Some came when famine struck, like my ancestral family in Ireland. Some to flee persecution, to chase dreams that are impossible anywhere but here in America. That's America. And we all come from somewhere, but we're all Americans. Look, folks, we have a simple choice. We can fight about fixing the border, or we can fix it.
Then use your executive function. You can see Mike Johnson shaking his head in the back. Brother, you're the only one in this room with a singular power to fix it.
A transformational moment in history happened 59 years ago today in Selma, Alabama. Hundreds of foot soldiers for justice marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, named after the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan, to claim their fundamental right to vote. They were beaten, they were bloody, and left for dead. Our late friend and former colleague, John Lewis, was on that march. We miss him. But joining us tonight are other marchers, both in the gallery and on the floor, including Betty Mae Fikes, known as the voice of Selma. The daughter of gospel singers and preachers, she sang songs of prayer and protest on that bloody Sunday to help shake the nation's conscience. 5 months later, the Voting Rights Act passed and was signed into law. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But 59 years later, there are forces taking us back in time. Voter suppression, election subversion, unlimited dark money, extreme gerrymandering. John Lewis was a great friend to many of us here, but if you truly want to honor him and all the heroes who marched with him, then it's time to do more than talk. Pass the Freedom to Vote Act, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. And stop denying another core value of America, our diversity across American life. Banning books, it's wrong. Instead of erasing history, let's make history. I want to protect fundamental rights. Pass the Equality Act. And my message to transgender Americans, I have your back. Pass the PRO Act for workers' rights. Raise the federal minimum wage, because every worker has a right to a decent living, more than $7 an hour. We're also making history by confronting the climate crisis, not denying it. I don't think any of you think there's no longer a climate crisis. At least I hope you don't. I'm taking the most significant action ever on climate in the history of the world. I'm cutting our carbon emissions in half by 2030, creating tens of thousands of clean energy jobs like the IBEW work is building and installing 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations. Conserving 30% of America's lands and waters by 2030. And taking action on environmental justice fence line communities smothered by the legacy of pollution. And patterned after the Peace Corps and AmeriCorps, I launched the Climate Corps to put 20,000 young people to work in the forefront of our clean energy future. I'll triple that number in a decade. To state the obvious, all Americans deserve the freedom to be safe, and America is safer today than when I took office. Year before I took office, murder rates went up 30%. 30% they went up.
Gabriel, you're 100% right. One of the biggest drivers of inflation and sustained inflation is rising wages. So wage inflation has been the key driver, because if everybody still has jobs and everyone's getting paid more, we all continue to pay these higher prices. It's not until we stop going to the grocery stores or stop shopping or stop eating out because the prices are too high that they start to come down. So as long as people keep paying the high prices, the prices stay high, and that's been the cycle that the Fed is stuck in. So in order to get that down, folks have to lose jobs. That's kind of what Jerome Powell was reiterating yesterday. So that's a tough spot for the Fed to be in. Either they have to basically raise the unemployment rate, have a bunch of people lose their jobs in order to bring inflation meaningfully down, or they have to stop enacting so many policies like raising wages, because it's only going to make the problem worse.
Take on crimes of domestic violence. I'm ramping up the federal enforcement of the Violence Against Women Act that I proudly wrote when I was a senator, so we can finally end the scourge against women in America. There are other kinds of violence I want to stop. With us tonight is Jasmine, whose 9-year-old sister Jackie was murdered with 21 classmates and teachers in an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas.
I hate when they do this. I really hate how they just bring somebody who's been victimized dramatically, like being part of a school shooting, and then put them on display as like show and tell to virtue signal that they're on their side. This is just low, right? Talk about your policies, build a vision for the future, talk about the ideals of America and where we should be headed. The theatrics is just, I don't know. This just makes me feel kind of weird. Just these people are traumatized from an experience, and now everyone's around them just clapping for them, and I don't know.
Meanwhile, my predecessor told the NRA he's proud he did nothing on guns when he was president. After another shooting in Iowa recently, he said, when asked what to do about it, he said, just get over it. There's his quote, just get over it. I say, stop it. Stop it, stop it, stop it.
That's going to convince the school shooters. That's definitely going to get them. Thanks, Joe.
I'm proud we beat the NRA when I signed the most significant gun safety law in nearly 30 years because of this Congress. We now must beat the NRA again. I'm demanding a ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. Pass universal background checks. None of this. I taught the Second Amendment for 12 years. None of this violates the Second Amendment or vilifies responsible gun owners. You know, as we manage challenges at home, we're also managing crises abroad, including in the Middle East. I know the last 5 months have been gut-wrenching for so many people, for the Israeli people, for the Palestinian people, and so many here in America. This crisis began on October 7th with a massacre by a terrorist group called Hamas, as you all know. 1,000.
The fallacy right there said this crisis started on October 7th.
Slaughtered after enduring sexual violence. The deadliest day for the Jewish people since the Holocaust. And 250 hostages taken. Here in this chamber tonight are families whose loved ones are still being held by Hamas. I pledge to all the families that we will not rest until we bring every one of your loved ones home. We also we will also work around the clock to bring home Evan and Paul, Americans being unjustly detained by the Russians and others around the world. Israel has the right to go after Hamas. Hamas ended this conflict by releasing hostages, laying down arms, could end it by releasing the hostages, laying down arms, and surrendering those responsible for October 7th. But Israel has Israel has a added burden because Hamas hides and operates among the civilian population like cowards, under hospitals, daycare centers, and all the like. Israel also has a fundamental responsibility, though, to protect innocent civilians in Gaza. This war has taken a greater toll on innocent civilians than all previous wars in Gaza combined. More than 30,000 Palestinians have been killed, most of whom are not Hamas. Thousands and thousands of innocents, women and children, girls and boys, also orphaned. Nearly 2 million more Palestinians under bombardment or displacement. Homes destroyed, neighborhoods in rubble, cities in ruin. Families without food, water, medicine. It's heartbreaking. I've been working nonstop to establish an immediate ceasefire that would last for 6 weeks to get all the prisoners released, all the hostages released, to get the hostages home and ease the intolerable and humanitarian crisis and build toward an enduring, something more enduring. The United States has been leading international efforts to get more humanitarian assistance to Gaza. Tonight, I'm directing the U.S. military to lead an emergency mission to establish a temporary pier in the Mediterranean on the coast of Gaza that can receive large shipments carrying food, water, medicine, and temporary shelters. No U.S. boots will be on the ground. A temporary pier will enable a massive increase in the amount of humanitarian assistance getting into Gaza every day. And Israel must do its part. Israel must allow more aid into Gaza to ensure humanitarian workers aren't caught in the crossfire.
I'm not even going to say it.
They're going to have a crossing in northern Gaza. For the leadership of Israel, I say this: humanitarian assistance cannot be a secondary consideration or a bargaining chip. Protecting and saving innocent lives has to be a priority. As we look to the future, the only real solution to the situation is a two-state solution over time. And I say this as a lifelong supporter of Israel. My entire career, no one has a stronger record with Israel than I do. I challenge any of you here. I'm the only American president of Israel in wartime. But there is no other path that guarantees Israel's security and democracy. There is no other path that guarantees Palestinians can live in peace with peace and dignity. And there's no other path that guarantees peace between Israel and all of its neighbors, including Saudi Arabia, with whom I'm talking. Creating stability in the Middle East also means containing the threat posed by Iran. That's why I built a coalition of more than a dozen countries to defend international shipping and freedom of navigation in the Red Sea. I've ordered strikes to degrade the Houthi capability and defend U.S. forces in the region. As Commander-in-Chief, I will not hesitate to direct further measures to protect our people and our military personnel. For years, I've heard many of my Republican and Democratic friends say that China is on the rise and America is falling behind. They've got it backwards. I've been saying it for over 4 years, even when I wasn't president. America's rising. We have the best economy in the world. And since I've come to office, our GDP is up, our trade deficit with China is down to the lowest point in over a decade. And we're standing up against China's unfair economic practices. We're standing up for peace and stability across the Taiwan Straits. I've revitalized our partnership and alliance in the Pacific. India, Australia, Japan, South Korea, Pacific Islands. I've made sure that the most advanced American technologies can't be used in China, not allowing to trade them there. Frankly, for all this tough talk on China, it never occurred to my predecessor to do any of that. I want competition with China, not conflict. And we're in a stronger position to win the conflict of the 21st century against China than anyone else, for that matter, than any time as well. Here.
What did he just say? We had sanctions against China. China was petrified of Trump. All right, they've been encroaching ever since Biden got in office because they do not fear the United States' retaliation. They've seen the disaster in Afghanistan. They saw the disasters in us trying to support Israel, but not really taking a side. They saw us supporting Ukraine, but never putting troops on the ground. Disastrous.
And keep our truly sacred obligation to train and equip those we send into harm's way and care for them and their families when they come home and when they don't.
I saw a Truth Social post by Trump. This is Trump saying this, tweeting or posting on Truth Social. He said, the coughing, it's always the coughing. He said, the drugs are wearing off. Inflation under Biden is killing America. Incredible.
Millions of veterans exposed to toxins who now are battling more than 100 different cancers. Many of them don't come home, but we owe them and their families support. We owe it to ourselves to keep supporting our new health research agency called ARPA-H and remind us that we can do big things.
Someone said this is going to win an Emmy Award for the biggest comedy of 2024. I would say biggest train wreck disaster. Keep in mind the rest of the world is watching. All right.
Let me close with this. Yay! I know you don't want to hear any more, Lindsay, but I got to say a few more things. I know it may not look like it, but I've been around a while. When you get to be my age, certain things become clearer than ever. I know the American story. Again and again, I've seen the contest between competing forces in the battle for the soul of our nation, between those who want to pull America back to the past and those who want to move America into the future. My lifetime has taught me to embrace freedom and democracy, a future based on core values that have defined America.
All right, he just kicked into third gear. There's a whole new battery pack just got pumped into him.
Fair shop to give hate no safe harbor. Now, other people my age see it differently. The American story of resentment, revenge, and retribution, that's not me. I was born amid World War II when America stood for the freedom of the world. I grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and Claymont, Delaware, among working-class people who built this country. I watched in horror as two of my heroes, like many of you did, Dr. King and Bobby Kennedy, were assassinated. And their legacies inspired me to pursue a career in service. I left the law firm and became a public defender because my city of Wilmington was the only city in America occupied by the National Guard after Dr. King was assassinated because of the riots. And I became a county councilman almost by accident. I got elected to the United States Senate when I had no intention of running at age 29.
He said, my whole life was just one big accident.
First black president. Now president to the first women vice president.
He said he got elected to mayoral office by accident. He got somehow found his way into the Senate somehow. And then his only accomplishments since he's been in office is being VP to the first black president and then being president while there's a first female vice president. Those are his only accomplishments. Everything that has to do with everybody else.
Whether young or old, I've always known what endures. I've known our North Star. The very idea of America is that we're all created equal and deserve to be treated equally throughout our lives. We've never fully lived up to that idea, but we've never walked away from it either. And I won't walk away from it now. I'm optimistic. I really am. I'm optimistic, Nancy.
I saw Janet Yellen sitting in the front row, front and center. You can see her right here. Just to show you how intertwined the Treasury and the executive is. So if you guys don't think they'll send out stimulus checks in an election year, you know, birds of a feather flock together.
But you can't lead America with ancient ideas. It'll only take us back. You lead America, the land of possibilities. You need a vision for the future and what can and should be done. Tonight you've heard mine. I see a future where defending democracy, you don't diminish it. I see a future where we restore the right to choose and protect our freedoms, not take them away. I see a future where the middle class finally has a fair shot and the wealthy have to pay their fair share in taxes. I see a future where we save the planet from the climate crisis and our country from gun violence.
Did you say the chronic crisis?
I see a future for all Americans. I see a country for all Americans. And I will always be president for all Americans because I believe in America. I believe in you, the American people. You're the reason we've never been more optimistic about our future than I am now. So let's build the future together. Let's remember who we are. We are the United States of America. And there is nothing.
At least he remembers where he lives. It's a start.
God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay, so I guess this is the part where he's going to go around and do the politic and shaking hands and whatnot. So what was the biggest takeaways that I just got? Every single thing that he just said was, how do I say this? It was like an imaginary, it was like a complete delusion. So all these things about raising taxes on corporations and lowering taxes for the individual and reducing inflation and having wages go up and reducing the military's footprint geopolitically and helping our strategic partners around the world while not putting any of our troops at risk. How does any of that match together? There's a trade-off for everything, people. And so if there's not enough taxes to pay for any of these projects, they're going to print the money. When they print the money, inflation gets exacerbated. We have a massive spike in prices again. And then we have a slowdown in spending. And then we have a recession. And this whole cycle starts all over again. Most of the issues he noted in his speech are his responsibility as the executive, such as closing the border and deporting anyone with a pre-existing criminal record. All right, holding the healthcare companies accountable or the pharmaceutical companies accountable for price gouging That's something he can directly affect as the executive. He can put pressure on regulators, create mandates. So this was just a giant, hey, look, I can make it through a 1 hour speech. And I think that people set the expectation so low for Joe Biden, and we can't let him get away with this either. I think that his camp has realized if we just make everybody believe and just let the news go out that he's drooling on himself somewhere and he can't form a coherent sentence, when he gets up and at least performs for an hour, it's going to exceed expectations so much that it's going to just make everybody forget about the senility. It's going to make everybody forget about all the gaffes, make everybody forget about him misstating how his son passed away, misstating which college he went to. Just, I don't know. The strategic mistakes in Afghanistan, the strategic ambiguity in the Middle East. So we're trying to play both sides. We're trying to support these people, but we're sending military aid to these people. The issue in Ukraine and Russia, not taking direct, not going head to head with Russia, not going to talk to Vladimir Putin, not having any open line of communication, not starting any type of real sanctions that's going to affect Russia, but then playing this proxy game in Ukraine. These are absolute disasters. Then you add the 10 million illegal immigrants that will have entered the country in the 4 years that he was president by the time he leaves office. These are emergencies that are the illegal immigration issue at the border, percentage-wise. If there's a certain amount of criminal activity coming through for every 1% of every, million people coming in, that still poses a disastrous threat inside the US. And then if you look at our strategic blunders overseas, it kind of gives confidence to a lot of the opponents of the US, maybe strengthens their confidence in their ability to go take over their neighbors. Taiwan, for example, comes to mind. So, yeah, I don't know how he could just get up there and lie just like that to everybody in the room who knows exactly what's going on. But half the room wasn't buying it. Half the room was already bought and paid for. So that's my take on what just happened. All right, leave your comments below. Let me know what you guys thought about this breakdown. Don't forget to grab your tickets to the #1 conference in the world for traders, investors, entrepreneurs, and crypto lovers. FX Summit 2024 conference is going to Dubai. See you guys there. FXSummit2024.com. Grab your tickets. Catch you guys live tomorrow morning for another live stream. Peace.